T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 30 seconds. We are go for launch. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the NASA Social for NASA's SpaceX Crew-2 mission. Let's go.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Crew-2 Virtual NASA Social. I'm Kristen Leva with NASA's Launch Services Program, and we are so excited for y'all to be here with us today. We have a really exciting show in store for you all with some guests from Commercial Crew Program, the Space Force's Detachment 3 team, and even a NASA astronaut. You definitely will not want to miss this, but before we jump into all the excitement, I want to introduce you to my amazing co-host, Allison Tankersley. Allison, how excited are you for launch this Thursday?
Kristen, I am so excited for launch of the Crew-2 mission on Thursday. This is another great milestone for NASA and SpaceX, and I'm even more thrilled to be here with you at the social desk. Please ask your questions in the comments below. You're using the hashtag AskNASA, and your question might get answered live by one of our subject matter experts. Kristen, can you tell us where we can watch the launch on Thursday?
Absolutely. So launch will be this Thursday, April 22nd at 6:11 Eastern Time. You can catch our live coverage starting at 2 a.m. Eastern Time on any of our social media channels, nasa.gov/live, or on NASA TV. The Crew-2 mission will be sending 4 astronauts to the International Space Station, 2 of which will actually be our international partners, which is a milestone for this mission that has not been done yet before, so it's really exciting. On that note, this will also be the second crew operational flight since we launched Crew-1 in early November. So with that, I would love to introduce you all to our very first guest, Jessica Parsons, who is the Commercial Crew Mission Manager. Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So I know we were talking earlier, and the mission manager is such a big role, especially in preparing for a mission like Crew-2. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role and what you do in preparation for something like Crew-2?
Absolutely. So I'm actually the mission manager for Crew-3, which is supposed to be launching in October of this year. So it's very excited about that. What a mission manager, we are responsible for integrating all different aspects of the mission. Our job really starts a year before the mission launches, and at that point we work with a commercial provider, with SpaceX in this case, and they have a mission manager assigned as well. So they're kind of like our partner. We work with them every day to understand what's happening with the mission, what's happening with the flight hardware, with the spacecraft, what's happening with the launch vehicle as it's going on production. Try to understand any challenges that might get on the way of the schedule, because that's really important. For example, in this case, we're doing a crew handover, right? So we have Crew-1 coming down a few days after Crew-2 arrives to the space station. So we got to make sure that the mission is ready to launch, just how we're doing today for Crew-2. Also, we work a lot with engineering teams, with the operational teams, with the flight crew office to understand crew assignments, to understand where we are in crew training. So we keep tabs all along the mission and what's going on. And then for launch, we're responsible to helping prepare to get that flight readiness approval that the mission is ready. We demonstrate that we have met all the requirements and that the vehicle is ready and safe to fly the astronauts. And then after that, as a mission manager, that's really where our job begins, because we follow the mission until it's ready to come and splash down. So in this case, it's about 6 months. We do periodic checkouts of the Dragon. Every week, there's a checkout that happens when the Dragon's on orbit, and about every month, the Dragon gets power up, and we check out systems just to make sure that everything is going well and that there's not going to be any issues when the capsule's getting to return.
That's amazing. It sounds, as a mission manager, you're involved in almost every facet of the launch campaign, so that's super exciting. And you're getting to do really impactful work. So how do you think you're going to feel whenever Crew-2 launches on Thursday?
Oh, it's going to be so exciting. And it's one of the reasons why I love working for this program, because I know I'm contributing personally to sending those astronauts to the space station, making sure they have a safe flight. So it's very exciting. I can't wait till this launch happens.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So did you always want to pursue space and the aerospace industry and one day launch rockets?
Actually, I did. Since I was a little kid, I was about probably 5, 7 years old. I'm one of those kids that was obsessed with space, and I always wanted to work for NASA. I pretty much try to design my life just to work for NASA. I grew up in another country. I grew up in Colombia, and my dream then was to come work for NASA, even like being in another country. So what I ended up doing is when I was in high school, I moved to the United States and finished high school here. And then when I was in high school, I actually went and talked to my high school counselor and asked her, so what career will get me to work for NASA? And she said, well, probably in engineering. It's a pretty safe bet. So she showed me all the list of engineering careers, and I was like, well, there's aerospace engineer. That has the word space. And literally that's how I went and applied to become an aerospace engineer. So that always was my dream, and I started working for NASA as a co-op, as an intern when I was in college, and that really got me. The minute I got that phone call, I was super excited because I knew like my foot was in the NASA door, and it was like my dream coming true.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think we're going to take some social media questions. I'm sure we'll have a ton after a little bit of your story. What do you have for us over there, Allison?
Yes, Jessica, that was an excellent story. Viewers, be sure to keep sending us your questions in the comments below or using the hashtag #AskNASA for questions for Jessica. Jessica, can you tell us a little bit more? This is a very exciting role. What is it that you're most looking forward to with the Crew-2 launch?
What I'm mostly looking forward to is definitely the launch, and the moment that we see that door open, the hatch open in ISS, knowing that the crew has made it safe to their International Space Station.
And where will you be watching the launch from?
I'll be at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Part of my job is to monitor the mission from there. So we have a control room where we monitor, and I will be watching the launch from there, and I'll be alternating shifts with other of my teammates, and I'll be there all the way through we dock, and then the Dragon capsules actually power off.
Can you tell us a little bit more about these shifts? I know that SpaceX and NASA do some interesting shift work for the times that we have to be available for launches.
Yeah, so this mission has been a little bit challenging because you guys know the launch is at 6 a.m. Well, our launch countdown really starts about 5 to 6 hours before the T0 time. So when you think about it, that's about midnight. And there's a lot of preparations that have to happen before launch. We just had our wet dress rehearsal, which is where we fuel up the vehicle. And then we also had the dry dress rehearsal with the crew where they go and do all the practice to get into the capsule. And all these events were in this time frame. So it's been a little bit hard on the team as we have to adjust from our normal day lives, working during the day to now a shift at night, and that shift continues all the way through launch. So it's part of the role, part of dealing with different launch times.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the many exciting things about working at NASA. And we do have a viewer whose daughter is in the 6th grade and interested in working at NASA. What advice do you have for her?
I would say the advice I always give people is follow your dream, because I think as long as you work hard and you have passion for what you want to do, I think you can achieve that. I think that I can relate that to my life story. I mean, I didn't even speak English when I moved to the United States, and because what I wanted to do was to really work for NASA, I taught myself English in a couple of years, and I'm here today. And all of that was done by my self-driven attitude that I could do it, and I really wanted to do that. So I think as long as she's motivated, she wants to work for NASA, just study hard and you will get there.
That's such an inspiring story. Can you tell us a little bit about how, after getting your degree, getting your job at NASA, how did you fall into this role?
Well, I've been with NASA for almost 20 years, and I've had a lot of different roles. I cannot say I wanted to be a mission manager when I grew up. That's never what I imagined I wanted to do, but I did wanted to have an exciting and inspiring job, and I think I'm here today, but I also had many other roles previously in my career. Funny enough, I started working in the International Space Station program here at Kennedy Space Center. So when I started my job, I got to see all the different modules that are part today of the ISS. I got to do a lot of testing on them, and I feel like life has kind of done a turnaround, because now we're launching astronauts that are going to the ISS, are going to those modules that I help assemble and test here at KSC. So at NASA, there's a lot of different opportunities. I've never been afraid of taking different roles. I had many roles in my career. I almost feel like I shift to something different every 2 to 3 years, but it's also part of growing as an individual. I feel like whenever I take on something different, I grow and I learn about that. And to me, that's really important, and it helps me where I am today.
How awesome to go from starting working on the ISS and then getting astronauts to the ISS. We have a question from YouTube. If you had a chance to fly on Crew Dragon, would you do it? And if so, for how long?
If I had a chance, I really would. Like I said, as a kid, that was my dream, to work for NASA, maybe to become an astronaut. But I felt like as my life, my life choices probably didn't help with that. I had a family. I have a family. I have 2 young children. And to me, leaving them for such a long period of time, knowing that I would be so far away, it's something that probably it stops me from saying, yes, I want to go fly in Dragon and be there for 6 months. I mean, I think it's awesome that for astronauts like Megan are doing that, but it's just not my personal decision.
You might wait till we can get the whole family to go as a group vacation then. And we have one last question. What is your favorite part about the job?
My favorite part about the job is knowing, again, that I am doing something significant, that I'm contributing to having these astronauts go in ISS. Everything that I do on my day-to-day job is helping for that mission, making sure that we are ready and that the astronauts are there safe. So just knowing that that's my contribution to the program is probably the most inspiring thing, most joyful thing.
That is awesome. Well, your story and the work that you're doing is super inspiring, so we really loved hearing from you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, and good luck with Crew-2.
All right. Go Crew-2.
All right, next we'll be hearing from the Space Force's Detachment 3 team, specifically Maj Chris Hearne. But before we hear from him, let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about the Det-3 program.
With the retirement of NASA's shuttle program in 2011, the U.S. has not seen human spaceflight from its soil in almost a decade. The airmen of the 45th Operations Group, Detachment 3, have stayed mission ready and have been here since the beginnings of human spaceflight. From Mercury Redstone rockets to the launch vehicles of today, they oversee postured launch rescue forces for all manned spaceflight operations, ensuring the safety of our nation's astronauts. Leading up to the return of human spaceflight, the team has been training and working with SpaceX, NASA, and Boeing to prepare for any type of launch rescue contingency. This training allows our team to work with and demonstrate to current and future mission partners and our nation our continued ability to ensure that an astronaut's worst day is not their last day.
Wow, what an amazing video. It really highlights what a critical role Detachment 3 plays in a launch like Crew-2. And with us today, I actually have Major Chris Hearne, who can speak to that a little bit. Major Chris Hearne, thank you so much for being with us today. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So after that video, I mean, that is a really specialized team. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Detachment 3 team and what your role is within the team?
Yes, ma'am. So we're a dual-headed organization. So for our service port, we organize, train, and equip the DoD to support the 3 NASA human spaceflight programs. And then day of mission, we actually run the operations center prepared to respond should our assistance be required. Mm-hmm. Me personally, day to day, I work as the recovery operations chief, which means I work nominal into mission for the Artemis program, coordinating and teaching the Navy to retrieve the capsule when it splashes down off the coast of California. Mm-hmm. Whereas for commercial crew, I'll actually be in the RADCC as the DoD liaison, passing information back to our operations center at Patrick Space Force Base.
That's amazing. It sounds like you have to kind of take a really unique path in order to get to this organization. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the Detachment 3 team?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a CSAR, which is Combat Search and Rescue helicopter pilot. I've been flying for 16 years. And as a rescue expert, I was brought onto the team just to provide that rescue background. And then you kind of learn additional skills. So never thought as a helicopter pilot I'd be working with the Navy to retrieve spaceships, but it's been an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, that is amazing. So what is your favorite part about this job?
The people I get to interact with has been incredible. The NASA team, I've done a lot with commercial crew and both the Artemis programs, and everybody at NASA has just been so fantastic to work with. And it's neat getting to know in a small way I get to leave my fingerprint on the space program.
Yeah, that is really awesome. Well, I'm sure you've left your fingerprint in a lot of really impactful scenarios, given that you were in rescue operations. Did you always know that you wanted to fly helicopters one day?
So it's actually circular. When I was 6 years old, I was inspired by how many of the NASA astronauts were Air Force pilots. Mm-hmm. And so I announced I was going to be an Air Force pilot. By the time I got to high school, things had changed. I fell in love with serving my country, being part of something bigger than myself. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of stopped thinking about the NASA inspiration to wind up coming back to this job towards this part of my career. And so it really brings it full circle for me, and it's been very fulfilling.
Yeah, that is super awesome. I bet it is a really fulfilling career. I'm sure we have a ton of social media questions who are interested in your career, so we'll go ahead and kick it over to Allison and answer some of those.
Before I send over the first question, just want to remind anyone who's just joining us, you can ask your questions in the comments below or using the hashtag AskNASA. For our first question, can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been a part of this team?
Actually, today is my 3-year anniversary. I showed up in April of 2018 and have been loving it ever since.
Well, congratulations. We're super excited to have you here on this anniversary. And then what advice do you have for someone who wants to work in the Space Force?
So the best thing I can advise is work hard, both academically and athletically, stay in shape, and start learning about it. Learn what it is you want to do. I mean, there's everything from cooks to firefighters all the way through pilots and space operators. So really educate yourself and chase your dream.
Great advice. And I'd love to hear more about what your day-to-day looks like. Can you walk us through a practice scenario on your team?
So on day of launch, we'll stand up the Support Operations Center at Patrick Space Force Base 4 hours prior to launch. And they'll begin running checklists and coordinating with DoD personnel all over the globe. We'll have alert forces at Patrick, Joint Base Charleston, and Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. And from the Operations Center, we'll make sure that all of those teams are prepared and ready to respond should there be an off-nominal or contingency event. And then we'll be on console through launch. Once orbital insertion happens, we'll pare down to min forces and wait for docking to release the rescue assets.
Very important, but I'm sure you're hoping that you don't have to ever do too much of a busy day. our viewers do want to know, can you talk about what we would do if there was a pad aboard?
So part of the rescue alert posture is a team of Air Force pararescue men and a combat rescue officer stationed at Patrick with 2 HH-60 helicopters and 2 HC-130Js. And should a pad abort happen, we will alert them. They will take off and hold outside the range once it is declared safe. They will continue in, and the pararescue men will either jump from the C-130 or helocast from the helicopters. They will assist the astronauts, extract them, and then the helicopters will come, pull them out of the life raft, and take them to the nearest medical facility.
Very important job. How often do you guys train for these scenarios?
So we train constantly. It just depends on the level. We do what we call a full mission profile for CCP every 18 months, but we do smaller rehearsals such as tabletop exercises and command and control exercises almost monthly.
And YouTube Ask NASA wants to know, what do you like most about your job?
Again, very similar to the question before, I love the people I get to interact with. On the NASA side, on the DoD side, it's just an incredible team of people working to make these amazing things happen for our country and continue the space program.
Mm-hmm. And viewers want to know, where will you be stationed specifically during launch?
So during the launch, I'll be in the RADCC on Kennedy Space Center, and I'll be liaising between NASA and then back to our Support Operations Center at Patrick Space Force Base.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit more about the Detachment 3 motto? What is it and what does it mean?
The Air Force rescue model is these things we do that others may live, and it's applicable in Detachment 3 because very similar, it's all about saving lives. And it's trying to make sure that somebody's worst day isn't their last day. And so we pull that mindset from rescue into the Human Spaceflight Support Office. And as you said, we hope our services are never needed, but if they are, we want to make sure they're perfect.
Sounds like a good motto to me. That is all the questions we have from social. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Major Hearne. You are doing really impactful work, and we appreciate you and all that you do for NASA.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, next up we're going to be hearing from our NASA astronaut Tracy Caldwell Dyson, who has logged more than 188 days in space and over 22 hours in spacewalk. This is something you don't want to miss, but before she joins us, let's check out this awesome Crew-2 video. What an awesome video. If you weren't excited about launch yet, I'm sure that video will get you super inspired. And to top it off, we now have our NASA astronaut, Tracy Caldwell Dyson. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. I know I'm super excited to talk to you, and I bet even the viewers at home are like sitting on their pins and needles. It's so exciting.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just as excited as all of you. So
awesome. So I think everyone's probably dying to know, what made you decide to pursue the astronaut route? That is so amazing.
You know, it was growing up looking at the sky. I think I was like just about everybody else. When you're a kid, you wonder what it's like to be in space, and you have a bunch of questions. But when I was in high school, around 16 years old, that's when I started to get kind of serious about the thought, and I was trying to decide what to do, go to college, what to study. And it was at the same time that NASA was really excited about this mission to take a teacher in space. And it was the Challenger mission with Christa Mcauliffe. And before that, I hadn't really thought about becoming an astronaut because I didn't know any astronauts. They were just test pilots, and I didn't know any. But my goodness, how many teachers do we interface with on a daily basis when we're that age? And so it really resonated with me. And at that point, that's when I started to look into the astronaut corps and find out what was this job all about. And the more I discovered about what they did, the more I discovered it matched a lot of the things I enjoyed doing. And so it was at that point I started to pursue it.
That's amazing. So you said it pursued a lot of the things that you enjoyed doing. So what are some of those things that you really loved and really wanted to take to the next level whenever you were becoming an astronaut?
On the top of that list is science. I wasn't particularly good at science, but I really liked it. And I found that they were building a space station, and they were building it so they could do science. And I thought, oh my gosh, what cooler way to study science than to be in space doing it. Some other things is that these astronauts needed to be in great shape, and I was at that time a student athlete, and I thought I wanted to go to the Olympics, but I thought, man, going into space and being in shape for it seems a whole lot funner than that. And so, and lastly, I worked much of my life for my father, who is an electrical contractor. So I was an electrician at an early age, and I loved working with tools. I loved fixing things. And when I found out that this space station was going to require spacewalks, which is basically construction in space, I was like, I'm totally qualified for that. So those are some of the things.
That is so amazing. I love hearing your story. Can you tell us, what advice would you give to someone who maybe wants to follow in your footsteps one day?
Oh, I would say create your own. Yeah. I think the most important thing that any young person can do is to discover what it is they enjoy doing. And I know that sounds really simple, but I think so often when you're young, you look to other people to guide you or to give you inspiration. And you may overlook some of the things that really you're good at and you enjoy, and there's meaning in that. And the more you enjoy what you're doing, the better you comes out. And so my advice to anyone wanting to pursue a career, especially as an astronaut, is to pursue those things that you enjoy doing and pursue them with all your heart. And the more of you put in it, the better you comes out. And who knows where it's going to lead you.
Yeah, that is so awesome. What an inspirational and impactful career you've had, and that's great advice too. What would you say has been your favorite moment throughout your career so far?
Oh,
is there?
I don't have one single favorite moment, because there are so many that this career has afforded me. I would say, though, the most memorable part of the work I've done is nothing that I have done. It has been riding on a rocket that other people designed and other people manufactured and other people controlled to get me to space, and to go into an environment that is so unwelcoming to human beings, and to be in a shirt sleeve looking out a window and gazing at this extraordinary planet and seeing God's creation. That will stick with me for the rest of my life, and I feel like I did very little to accomplish that.
Well, I don't know, but I do bet that is a remarkable view that many don't get to see, so that's really incredible. I loved hearing that, and I'm sure our viewers at home do too. I think we'll go ahead and kick it over to some social media questions. I think everyone's pretty excited to meet you and hear what else you have to say.
Cool, looking forward to it.
Tracy, once you decided you had the qualifications, what was the process like to become an astronaut?
Well, the first step is filling out an application. Whether it's typing a piece of paper back when I applied or going online, it starts there, and then there are several phases of the process of selection whereby you're either going through medical exams, psychological exams, interviews, and then demonstrations of your skill. And you pass through each one of these gates, if you will, or phases, to then be selected. That's not the end of it. Then you continue on once you're selected with further instruction and evaluation and training in order to then pass through your candidacy and become a full-fledged astronaut.
So we'll fast forward. You're now an astronaut. You're on your first flight. What is the best description of how it feels to be in space?
Oh, just try not to have a giggle fit when you get into microgravity. That is probably when you realize where you are after, it takes years to get to that point. and so much intensity in your training, and the amount of information that comes into your head, and the amount of deciding you have to do about how much of that information I need to keep and how much I can throw out. By the time you get to orbit, and you're there with your crewmates who've been through this with you, and you're thinking about your family back home who are supporting you. Gosh, I could cry right now thinking about it. That you're just in awe of what just happened to you. And then you got to figure out this whole floating thing, and that takes a few minutes. Oh, well, actually, it takes a little longer than that. I'll be honest. Did I answer the question?
You did. And
okay.
One of our Facebook participants wants to know, following on that, do you have any tips or tricks for microgravity and the effects on your body, how to handle it?
Oh, yes. Do I ever? We don't have a whole lot of time for me to get into the details, but expect to be there for a little while in order to get really good at it, because if you're up there on a shuttle mission or some duration like that, like 2 weeks, forget it. You're not going to be graceful. You're going to be like a cow in space. But if you're there for 6 months, the first 2 months you're trying to figure out how to control your body and how fast things float away from you. And then the third and the fourth month, you're kind of anticipating, like, oh, I remember this is how space works. And then by your fifth and sixth month, you're really good at it. That's where the grace comes in and the cow goes out. So it takes 6 months, everybody, no less.
Well, then Crew-2 should get it figured out in their 6 month trip. Speaking of commercial companies, one of our viewers wants to know, it seems like there are a lot of astronauts flying with commercial companies, some suborbital. What do you think of all the space travel coming up?
Well, what do I think about it? I think it's a lot of work. I think it's a lot more work than people realize before they get involved in it. We cherish Hollywood and how much they have promoted the space program and space exploration through their storytelling. We're grateful. However, they make it look a little too easy. So I think when folks get involved in spaceflight, they realize just how long it takes, just how much work it takes. And to be quite honest, space is not a very comfortable environment. There's a lot of work and time and research and development that goes into making it as slick as we have it today. And so just be prepared, be patient, be flexible. That's my best advice.
I think that's great advice. And one of our viewers wants to know, what's the most unexpected or surprising thing you've done as a part of your official astronaut duties?
I don't know if I could say this out loud, but it's talk about going to the bathroom in space. I have talked about that more than I ever expected, both in jest and technically speaking. I'm an expert on going to the bathroom in space. I mean, I never believed that would ever be on my resume, but that would probably be the most surprising. It's probably not the most poetic, but it's the truth.
At least it's honest.
But can you talk about going to the bathroom in space in Russian? One of our viewers wants to know, do you speak Russian?
О, да, конечно. Но я не говорю о туалете по-русски сегодня. Извините.
I don't speak Russian, but I'm going to take that as a resounding yes. And we also have a viewer, hello from Greenland. My 9-year-old son is very interested in space and astronauts. Is it fun to be on the International Space Station?
Yes, it's fun, and again, it's a lot of work, you guys. We are constantly working and always got our hands on something, our head in a rack, but it is fun to be there with your friends, and your fellow astronauts are your friends, your fellow crewmates. Because they're going through the same thing you're going through. It's fun when you get to connect with family and friends back home and share the experience with them. It's fun to honestly flip around and have that become kind of normal in your life for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that takes the place of looking out the window and gazing at this beautiful planet.
Mm. I bet. And we are going to switch gears a little bit of looking up to the sky from Earth. We have a message that says, Tracy, my daughter and I just got a telescope. Do you enjoy just looking at the stars? And if so, what is your favorite constellation to spot?
Oh, yes, I do. I love to look at the stars. And I grew up in the desert where the sky was black, the stars were clear and immense, and I miss it because I live in Houston now and there's a lot of light other than the stars. What was the other part of that question? I got so wrapped up in remembering what it looked like.
Do you have a favorite constellation when you're looking?
Yes, I do. It's Orion. Because you can see it and not have to be such an astronomer to know what you're looking at, but also because in the belt of Orion is the star, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, Rigel or Regal, and I love that so much I named my dog after it.
That's awesome. Going back, you said your most talked about question is using the bathroom in the space. As a NASA communicator, we often get what is the food on the International Space Station, so I'll have you answer that one for us.
What is the food like? Or
yeah.
Oh, well, it is, I'm going to say it's great. For space food, and I'm hesitating just because I know we've done a lot to reformulate the food since I've been there, and so I'm going to take it on faith that it's even better than it was when I was there. What's really cool about the International Space Station food is that it's international, and so not only are we eating meatloaf and grilled pork chops and asparagus and apple pie, but we're also eating sushi and rice. We're having we're having stew on the Russian side. We're having delicacies from Europe, and it's just a cornucopia of flavors in space. And so, yeah, food's great.
Sounds delicious. And we have time for one last question. If you could choose one destination, the International Space Station, Moon, or Mars, to go to, which would you choose?
I'm going to say the Moon, because I've been to the International Space Station and I want more people to see that. And I've not been to the Moon, and I hear that we might be going there soon. So yeah, I'm going to pick the Moon.
That is awesome. I think I would pick the Moon too. That seems like a really fun place to visit. But you've gotten to see some incredible views already, which is amazing, and we can catch you again on the live broadcast, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear from you again, but in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. It was really fun having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun for me, too.
All right, everyone, and thank you all back home for joining us on this Crew-2 NASA Virtual Social. We were so excited to have you all here with us. You can check us out again tomorrow during our Countdown Clock show starting at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Once again, launch is going to be this Thursday, April 22nd at 6:11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can catch our live broadcast starting at 2 a.m. that morning. Once again, check it out on our social media, NASA.gov/live, or on NASA TV. Thank you guys again so much, and we hope you'll continue joining us as we launch America.